So I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I was born to immigrant parents. My dad raised me on his own, which is pretty uncommon. I was the only daughter. Fast forward a couple years, I ended up in foster care. I lived in group homes. I graduated high school as, with a big belly. I ended up being a teen mom and being a mom very young. And then from there, I knew that the only way out, or my only ticket, was education. So from there, I started going to community college. I committed a crime at the age of 18, and I didn't get arrested for it until I was in my mid-20s. I ended up spending over 2 years in solitary confinement fighting for my case. I was sentenced to 4 years. I spent some time at Valley State Prison for Women up in Chowchilla, and then I came home. From there, I got a job. I quickly learned that the more classes that I took, the less time I had to spend scrubbing toilets and cleaning windows. So then I just took all the classes that Homeboy offered. And one of them was Pathways to College. When I came home, I applied to Cal State Northridge, and I ended up being accepted. Once I was there, I was faced with so many other challenges. Feeling like you don't belong. I figured if you put the story out there, then you're in control of it. And soon other students came out and identified as being formerly incarcerated, and we started organizing at Northridge. I started seeing how there's barriers to employment, there's barriers to housing, and we ask ourselves, well, why do people keep going back to prison? And it's because what's the alternative? You can't get a job. You can't get an apartment. Depending on the type of felony that you have, you're not eligible for financial aid. You can't go to school. If you want to start your own business, you have to get licensed to the state of California. And if you're a felon, you're probably not going to be able to do that. I do not think that prison is the answer. I think that we criminalize social issues like homelessness, immigration, and mental health. Placing a person in prison or in jail, there is no rehabilitation that goes on. There are no services that are being offered. There is no help that is given to a person at all. I think that people go into the prison system already broken. The prison system breaks a person even more and dehumanizes them.
I was born in American Samoa. I grew up there until the age of 9 before moving to Hawaii. From there, I moved to California, where I stayed at in Orange County. I went to Santa Ana High School for the most part. Of course, I was kicked out of the 9th grade. And at the age of 14, I went to the California Youth Authority, where I spent the next 3 years until the age of 17. I think one of the major experiences that really impacted my life was the fact that I ended up in prison. I mean, after being released from the California Youth Authority, I was still 17 years old. It wasn't long before I committed another violent act that resulted in my incarceration of 34 years and 6 months. I was a child that went through a lot. There was a lot of abuse. And to me, there was nobody really to care. The education system didn't care. I received straight F's in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and yet they still graduated me. For things that doesn't really require prison, I think that an alternative program will be the best thing for them. Sending them to prison, simply only educating them to become probably the person they don't want to be. But being around people who have nothing to lose, they become like them. Some people act out in ways that they don't want to, but it's the only way they know how, because they don't know what's wrong. Sometimes maybe putting them simply to a recovery class and go through the process of change, of understanding the causative factors, might be what that's needed for them, because then they can understand for themselves and know why. Answer why you're angry. Answer why you're acting out. There's always a reason why. When you're able to answer the why, then you're on the right path towards recovery. because now you're taking that opportunity to understand you. Locking them up is not going to give them that.
I am one of 8 children. I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii. 7 boys and 1 girl in my family. I grew up in a very strict Christian household. My family were Jehovah's Witnesses. There were a lot of secrets in our families that we knew of, but was never spoken about. So I always felt like we were always living a lie. We could never be transparent, but yet we were being portrayed as this Christian household that got it together because we were Jehovah's Witnesses. I was also contradicted and I was conflicted because when I went to the Kingdom Hall, I was dressed as a boy. But at the same time, I was growing up as this young little sister with my siblings. So early on, I already knew that who I was, that I embraced both spirits, and I loved boys at that time. And I was abused quite a bit, sexually, mentally, physically, as a child. And I picked up the bottle because there was still that area of my life where I was uncomfortable with in terms of my sexuality. Not being openly gay with my friends and family just drove me crazy. So I picked up the bottle. And so I started drinking at the age of 14. I wasn't just drinking, I was drinking to black out. I was drinking to become sexually promiscuous. I was drinking to act out everything that I just could not. It was that truth serum, it was that liquid courage that we all talk about, but it was just out of control. And so throughout high school and college, I would do well, but then it would always be hampered or it would always be obstructed by my drinking. And then just self-destruction just went from there. And then I started the bar scene and just meeting people. My sexual promiscuity led me to just drug use, and I became a crystal meth user. That's when I just lost everything. I just let everything go and talk about just a complete downward spiral. I just lost my job, lost scholarships, lost everything, and ended up homeless. Ended up losing my partner, losing my apartment, and just had no self-respect for myself whatsoever. So I ended up homeless, so I resorted to prostitution. April of 2000, I moved from Honolulu to be here with my mom. My mom was ill, and I am a mama's boy, and so she asked me to come up here, and I did. Ended up staying here and taking care of my mom, but then my addiction just blew up. I started doing crack cocaine as well. And in 2002, that's when my mom passed away. Fast forward to 2008, that's when I picked up my first violent felony, which was a sex charge. And in 2008, I was accused of oral copulation on an unconscious victim of 288. And at that point, that's when my life completely just went to shreds. I was already living with my roommate at that time, and the victim was a mutual friend. And so I gave him a blowjob, while we were sleeping, but I was under the influence, so was he. We were all using drugs, and so at that time, I thought it was okay what I did, something that I've been doing for my entire life. But I got arrested, I was charged with rape, and that blew my mind. And I didn't even know what the consequences were. literally carried a bed, a recliner, a shopping cart, and I camped on the top of the roof of Metro PCS. I was cold and hungry, and I started a fire on the roof, and they saw smoke, and I was smoking and tweaking on there, and I got charged. Another, they was gonna make it a violent felony, but they made it a misdemeanor wobbler. So I got arrested for arson, and that was my first arson charge. Between those, I had multiple drug charges, trespassing, and some other things. But between all of that, I was going in and out of jail. But at that time, that one judge said, you need to go back to Long Beach, and you need to be with your family and your people. And that's where I got reunited with my Samoan people, and they gave me an alternative sentencing. I was assessed by Department of Mental Health. Cynthia Alcarez, who's the DMH specialist, court specialist, spoke with me, just was really supportive and really gave me the love and encouragement at court, told me that this is something that they believe and they would provide services, and I took that. That's when I started my transformation. If every judge could be like that, we could definitely end mass incarceration. We could definitely bring restoration to people. This is why I'm a huge advocate for this. I'm a living proof that it does work, but it takes hard work. I'm very grateful for diversion, alternative sentencing, and just looking beyond the act.
When I grew up and I started going to school, I was really, really bad. Like, I got in trouble every single day. I was suspended every other week. I would come off of a suspension, do something, and go right back on. I got expelled from multiple schools. It was terrible. And my parents really couldn't focus on anything else other than trying to get me to stop acting out in school, because my parents couldn't even work at the same time, because one of them literally had to sit at home next to the phone waiting on my school to call to say I've been in something else. It was that bad. There wasn't anything wrong with me. I've never had any history of mental illness or anything like that. I've never even really been diagnosed with ADHD. The doctor tried to say I haven't had it, but I didn't. So it baffled them even more than it made them angry, because they, number one, just flat out couldn't figure out why I was acting that way, let alone figure out how to make me stop. About 2 weeks before I moved here, I got into something, because I had been involved with gangs and all kind of stuff. I've been from a rolling 60s neighborhood in Oakland, California. I used to get into all kind of stuff with them. I was really in the streets doing really bad, but the cherry on top was when I got into a really big fight at my school, because this kid, it was over something really, really childish, because he said something about my mom or something. That was a really big deal back then. I followed him into the PE locker room and beat him up, and I got more than I bargained for, apparently. I got in a whole bunch of trouble for that. So my parents were like, you know what, we can't take this, can't do it anymore. You've gotten into far too much trouble out here, and we're gonna send you to live with your grandparents. I got sent here, and I've been here for, let's say, 3 years now, and it's been a lot better. I had gotten in trouble at my first high school, which was Milliken. I had gotten in trouble there, a few citations that I got there for the possession of weed. I ended up getting kicked out of there. I had to go to Beach, and I was in JDRC there for the remaining month of my 9th grade year. And I came out and went to summer school at Wilson, and then got there. I got a few assault charges in middle school, but those were just citations that I had to pay and stuff like that, so did that, and those were over with. being in jail teaches you to be an animal. I have probably some of the greatest jail stories, even though I've never been there. I have stories that people that have been to jail have given me. I have knowledge of what jail is like because I have so many friends and a few family members that have been there. Just based on summing up everything that I've been told and that I've heard, it's like a lion's den. You are literally taught to be an animal there. And that's not really helping someone because then they just pretty much come out worse. You come out with even worse habits. You're more reckless. There's a really good chance that you're not going to come out of there wiser than you were. I just stopped taking things for granted like I used to. I got pretty much straight A's now. You already know my grades were nowhere near that. It just made me feel more, it just gave me motivation and incentive. It just feels like I've achieved everything I really wanted but wasn't willing to work for then. I think a while ago I just wanted things to be handed to me. I didn't quite want to earn them, but now I'm willing to put in the work to actually earn what I want.